For 7 years, I was the lifeline of my family. I paid their debts, funded their dreams, poured every dollar I earned into their endless emergencies. I asked for nothing in return, believing that's what family does, sacrifices everything for love. But on Christmas morning, as snow fell outside our Boston home, my sister Maris shattered that illusion with a cold, calculated smile. "We've voted, Evelina," she said, her voice sharp as ice. "You're no longer part of this family." The words hit like a blade, cutting through years of loyalty. I stood frozen, the air thick with their silent agreement, my mother Loretta, my brother Thane, even stepfather Vernon, all complicit. They thought they could discard me now that I'd stopped writing checks. But they didn't know about the red folder in my hands, a quiet testament to every lie, every betrayal, every dollar they'd taken. That folder held 7 years of truth, $280,000 worth of secrets they thought I'd never uncover. As I placed it under the Christmas tree, their smug laughter died. Have you ever been betrayed by the people you loved most? Felt your heart break under the weight of their ingratitude? This is my story of standing up to manipulation, of finding strength in truth. Stick with me to see how that red folder changed everything. If you've ever felt used, taken for granted, or cast aside, this one's for you. Drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? Tell me your story. Hit that like button if you're ready to hear how I fought back against a family that saw me as nothing more than their ATM. Subscribe for more stories of courage and breaking free. You're not alone in this. The red folder wasn't just paper, it was my voice, my proof, my freedom. In the moments that followed, it would unravel their lies and force them to face the truth. Stay tuned, because this Christmas morning wasn't about gifts or joy, it was about accountability. My name is Evelina Harper, and I'm 33 now, but this story begins in the quiet streets of a Boston suburb, where I grew up in a modest 2-story house with a backyard just big enough for summer barbecues. Back then, we were a family like any other. Dad, an engineer, fixed things around the house. Mom, Loretta, taught 3rd graders, her laughter filling our home. My sister Maris, 3 years younger, had our mother's charm, always the center of attention. Thane, the baby, now 26, was coddled, his every whim indulged. We were happy, or so I thought, until I was 16, and everything unraveled. Dad announced he was leaving, trading us for his administrative assistant and a new life in California. The divorce was brutal, bitter arguments, court battles, and a financial crater that swallowed our stability. His child support checks barely covered groceries. Mom changed overnight. The warm teacher I knew became brittle, her eyes sharp with worry. "We have to stick together now, Evelina," she'd say, squeezing my hand. "Family is all we have." Those words became my anchor, but also my chains. 2 years later, Mom married Vernon, a quiet insurance clerk who seemed to exist only to nod at her decisions. "He's a provider," she told me when I asked why she married a man she didn't love. "You'll understand when you're older." I didn't understand, but I felt the weight of her expectations. Maris leaned into her popularity, chasing fleeting admiration. Thane coasted, expecting life to hand him success. I coped differently. I buried my pain in books, joined every academic club, and vowed to build a future where I'd never feel helpless again. That drive earned me a full scholarship to Boston University's business program, but it also set me apart. I was the responsible one, the fixer, the one who'd hold us together. Little did I know, my family saw something else in me, not a daughter or sister, but a resource waiting to be tapped. Their betrayal didn't start with a single moment. It grew slowly, disguised as love, until I was too deep to see it for what it was. At 16, I stood on the stage at my high school graduation, delivering the valedictorian speech. My family clapped politely, Loretta, Vernon, Maris, and Thane seated in the 3rd row. "We're so proud," Mom said afterward, her voice warm but with a new, speculative edge I didn't recognize then. "You've always been the smart one." That tone, I'd later realize, was the sound of someone sizing up an asset. College was a blur of classes, part-time jobs, and internships. I lived in a cramped dorm, eating instant noodles to save money, while Maris decided on a whim to attend a private liberal arts college, racking up loans Mom and Vernon couldn't afford. Thane barely finished high school, bouncing between retail jobs and vague dreams of starting something in tech. I channeled my energy into achievement, landing an internship at a top financial firm my junior year. At 23, I graduated with a full-time offer, $80,000 a year, more money than I'd ever imagined. I felt unstoppable, like I could rebuild the family Dad had broken. 3 weeks into my job, Mom called. Her voice was tight, trembling. "Evelina, Maris's car broke down completely. The mechanic says $3,000, and with her tuition payments this month," she trailed off, letting the silence do the work. I transferred the money that night, my heart racing with pride. I was helping. Maris texted, "Thanks, sis. Lifesaver." A kissing emoji followed. I didn't hear from her again for weeks. 2 months later, Thane needed $1,500 for a coding boot camp he swore would set him up for life. Mom needed $2,800 for property taxes. Vernon's hours had been cut, she said. Each request came with promises, repayments that never materialized, gratitude that faded fast. I told myself this was temporary, that family helps family. But the requests kept coming, each one chipping away at my dreams. At 24, I got a promotion and a raise. Mom called, sobbing. "We're 3 months behind on the mortgage, Evelina. They'll take the house." I emptied my savings, $25,000 I'd set aside for a condo down payment. When I visited that weekend, I found a new living room set and a gleaming entertainment system. "Once-in-a-lifetime clearance prices," Mom explained, her smile too quick. I nodded, ignoring the knot in my stomach. I wanted to believe her, to keep the family together. But that knot grew heavier with every dollar I sent, every promise they broke. I was starting to see the pattern, but I wasn't ready to name it. Not yet. I clung to Mom's words, family is all we have. But what did I have, really? A bank account draining faster than my hope, and a family who only called when they needed something. By 25, I was a senior financial analyst, earning $100,000 a year, but I had less to show for it than when I started. My apartment was a 1-bedroom rental, sparsely furnished, while my family's lifestyle bloomed. Maris was in grad school, her tuition partially funded by me. Thane's business ideas came and went, each one needing my cash to get off the ground. Loretta and Vernon's home gleamed with upgrades I'd unknowingly paid for. The requests had evolved from emergencies to expectations. Family dinners became stage plays, with subtle hints dropped within my earshot. "The roof's leaking again," Vernon would mutter. Maris would sigh about grad school stress, hinting at unpaid bills. Thane pitched his latest venture, a beer subscription service needing $20,000 for inventory. I asked for a business plan. He slid over crumpled papers, vague promises with no numbers. Against my better judgment, I wrote the check, dipping into my 401k, paying the penalty. "It's a loan," I said firmly. "Monthly payments start in 6 months." Thane nodded, all charm. "You're the best, Evie." 6 months passed. No payments. When I asked, he snapped, "Not everything's about spreadsheets, Evelina." The business folded quietly, the money gone. Then came Maris's wedding. She'd met a pharmaceutical rep, and after a 6-month romance, they planned a fairy tale ceremony at Boston's Langham Hotel. "Deposits are down," Mom said over lunch, sliding me a $40,000 budget. "Maris deserves this." I stared at the list, $10,000 for flowers, a Paris-designed dress. What about my dreams? I asked quietly. Mom's eyes hardened. You're so independent, Evelina. Maris needs this. I signed the check. At the wedding, I sat with distant cousins while Mom, Vernon, and Thane were at the head table. Maris's speech thanked everyone but me. Later, I overheard her laughing about her fully funded Cancun honeymoon. Mom's credit card debt payment, $18,000 I'd sent, turned into a kitchen renovation. I saw the photos on her social media, gleaming cabinets mocking my sacrifice. I tried setting boundaries once, at a family dinner when I was 30. I need to save for my future, I said carefully. Mom's voice quivered. After all I sacrificed, raising you alone? Maris sneered, no husband, no kids, what else do you spend money on? Thane added, you don't turn your back on family. I left with a migraine, sent $3,000 for their overdue taxes, and felt the chains tighten. I was their ATM, and they knew exactly how to work me. But deep down, I was starting to break. By 25, I was a senior financial analyst, pulling in $100,000 a year, but my bank account told a different story. My one-bedroom apartment in Boston was bare, second-hand couch, a wobbly desk, no art on the walls. Meanwhile, my family's lifestyle flourished, built on the dollars I poured into their hands. Maris, my younger sister, was chasing a master's degree at a private college, her tuition partially covered by my checks. Thane, our baby brother, drifted through one failed venture after another, each one needing my cash to launch. Mom, Loretta, and her husband Vernon lived in a house that sparkled with upgrades, from gleaming hardwood floors to a new deck, all funded by what I thought were emergencies. The requests didn't come all at once. They crept in, cloaked in guilt and promises. Family dinners turned into carefully staged performances. Maris would drop hints about her grad school stress, sighing over unpaid bills. Thane would pitch his latest big idea, eyes bright with rehearsed enthusiasm. Loretta would mention the house's latest crisis, a leaking roof, a broken furnace, her voice trembling just enough to tug at my heart. I'd open my banking app before dessert was served. One request stood out, sharp and painful. Thane, then 21, came to me with his sure thing, a craft beer subscription service. It's booming, Evie, he said, using my childhood nickname to soften me. I just need $20,000 for inventory and a website. I asked for a business plan, something to justify the risk. He slid over a few crumpled pages, vague outlines, no real numbers, just dreams scribbled in haste. My gut screamed no, but his earnest face and Mom's voice in my head, family is all we have, won out. I dipped into my 401k, paid the early withdrawal penalty, and wrote the check. This is a loan, I told him firmly. Payments start in 6 months, with interest. He hugged me, all gratitude. You're the best, sis. I won't let you down. 6 months came and went. No payments. When I pressed him, he snapped, not everything's about your spreadsheets, Evelina. Some of us are building something real. The business never launched. The $20,000 vanished, like so much else I'd given. Then came Maris's wedding. She'd met a pharmaceutical rep, and after a whirlwind romance, they planned a fairy tale ceremony at Boston's Langham Hotel. Over lunch, Mom slid me a budget, $40,000. The venue's booked, the caterers paid, she said. Maris deserves her dream day. I stared at the list, $10,000 for flowers, a dress flown in from Paris. My own dreams, a condo, a trip to Europe, felt like distant stars. What about me, Mom? I asked quietly. Her eyes narrowed, then softened. You're so strong, Evelina. Maris needs this. You'll have your turn. I signed the check, my hands shaking. Every dollar I gave was a piece of myself, handed over in the name of love. But love, I was starting to suspect, wasn't what they were giving back. The requests kept growing, $18,000 for Loretta's credit card debt, $5,000 for Thane's marketing course, $3,000 for Vernon's car repair. I canceled my own plans, postponed my goals, and watched my savings dwindle. I told myself this was what family did, sacrificed, supported, stayed loyal. But loyalty was starting to feel like a trap, and I was sinking deeper every day. The truth about my family's betrayal didn't hit all at once. It seeped in, slow and poisonous, through cracks in their stories. Maris's wedding was the first wound. I'd paid $40,000 for her dream day, $10,000 just for flowers that wilted by midnight. At the reception, I was seated with distant cousins, far from the head table where Mom, Vernon, and Thane toasted the bride. Maris's speech thanked her parents, her in-laws, even the caterer, but my name never passed her lips. Later, I overheard her on the phone, laughing with a friend. "Cancun's booked for the honeymoon," she said. "Mom and Vernon totally hooked me up." Hooked her up with what? My money, framed as their generosity. The sting deepened when I saw Loretta's social media 2 months after I'd sent $18,000 to clear her credit card debt. There was her kitchen, transformed, new cabinets, granite counters, a stainless steel fridge. Necessary repairs, she'd told me when I asked at Sunday dinner. Vernon mumbled agreement, avoiding my eyes. I wanted to believe them, but the math didn't add up. A teacher's pension and Vernon's sporadic income couldn't cover that kind of upgrade. My money had, and they'd lied about it. Thane's betrayal cut even deeper. His $20,000 business loan, the one I'd taken from my retirement savings, never went to any beer subscription service. I found out later he'd bought a nearly new BMW, kept hidden at a friend's house so I wouldn't see it. He drove an old Honda to family events, playing the struggling entrepreneur, while my sacrifice sat in a garage, collecting dust. Every time he called me Evie or promised to make it big, it was a performance, and I'd bought every line. The lies piled up, each one a fresh wound. Loretta's property tax payment of $2,800 turned into a high-end entertainment system. Maris's medical emergency loan of $5,000 funded a spa retreat with her friends. Thane's marketing course was a weekend in Vegas. I saw the evidence in their posts, their casual boasts, their new clothes and gadgets. My life stayed small, same worn jacket, same cramped apartment, while theirs grew lavish. I kept giving, kept hoping, kept believing their promises. But the truth was clawing its way out. They weren't just taking my money, they were taking my trust, my dreams, my sense of self. I was starting to see them for who they were, not family, but users, hiding behind smiles and lies. By 30, I was drowning. My salary had climbed to $135,000, but I had nothing to show for it, no savings, no retirement fund, no life of my own. Every dollar went to my family's endless needs. Maris's grad school loans, Thane's failed ventures, Loretta and Vernon's mortgage, I was carrying them all. I hadn't taken a vacation in years, hadn't bought new clothes, hadn't dared dream of a future that wasn't tied to their demands. I was their ATM, and they knew exactly which buttons to push. I tried to break free once, at a family dinner in April. The weight of their expectations was crushing me, and I couldn't breathe under it anymore. I rehearsed my words all week, choosing them carefully. "I need to prioritize my own financial future," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "I'm happy to help in real emergencies, but I can't keep being the main support for everyone." The reaction was instant, vicious. Loretta's eyes filled with tears, her voice quivering. "After everything I've done for you, Evelina? I raised you alone after your father abandoned us. I sacrificed everything. Maris leaned forward, her smile cruel. No husband, no kids, not even a pet. What else would you spend your money on? Thane chimed in, his tone accusing. You don't turn your back on family. It's not like you're struggling. Their words hit like fists, each one landing on my insecurities. I felt small, selfish, ungrateful. By the time I left, my head throbbed with a migraine, and I'd sent $3,000 for overdue property taxes they'd conveniently forgotten to mention earlier. The boundaries I tried to set crumbled before they'd even formed. The cycle continued, relentless. Loretta called about a medical bill that turned out to be elective dental work. Thane needed seed money for another vague startup. Maris hinted at struggling with her new house's mortgage, guilt-tripping me into another loan. Every time I hesitated, they wielded the same weapon: family is all we have. I'd hear Mom's voice from years ago, feel the weight of her hands squeezing mine, and give in. But giving in didn't bring love or gratitude. It brought more demands, more lies, more emptiness. I was trapped, not by their needs, but by my own loyalty, a loyalty they'd twisted into a tool for control. Deep down, I knew something had to change, but I wasn't ready to face what that meant. Not yet. September 12th was the day my world cracked open. I'd arrived early for our monthly family dinner at Mom's house in Boston, a bottle of wine in one hand, my heart heavy with the usual dread. The house was quiet, but voices drifted from the back patio: Loretta, Maris, Thane, and Vernon, laughing over drinks in the late summer light. I moved toward the French doors to join them, but my name stopped me cold. Evelina's bonus should be coming through next month, Mom said, her voice sharp with calculation. I'm thinking we could finally get that vacation property in Vermont, the one with the lake view. Maris laughed, the sound cutting like glass. God, she's such an easy mark. All you have to do is mention family emergency, and she whips out her checkbook. Thane chuckled, clinking his glass. Remember when she made me sign that payment plan for the business loan? Like I was ever going to pay that back. What planet is she living on? My hand froze on the doorframe, my breath caught in my throat. They weren't done. She's lonely, Mom said, matter of fact. No social life, no relationship. We're all she has. Of course she'll keep supporting us. Maris added, her tone mocking, all that money, and what does she do with it? Lives in that depressing apartment, wears the same boring clothes year after year. Vernon, usually silent, raised his glass. To Evelina, the gift that keeps on giving. Their laughter echoed, cruel and carefree, as if I were a joke they told 100 times. I'd suspected their greed for years, felt the sting of their dismissals, but hearing it laid bare, my sacrifices reduced to a punchline, shattered something inside me. I pulled out my phone, hands trembling, and hit record. Every word, every laugh, captured. I slipped out the front door without a sound, my migraine excuse texted to Mom 10 minutes later. Her reply was instant, all false concern, with a reminder that Vernon needed dental work they couldn't afford. In my car, their voices replayed in my head, each one a knife. I'd given them $280,000 over 7 years, my savings, my dreams, my future, and this was what they thought of me. Not a sister, not a daughter, but a mark. A resource. A fool. That night, I realized I wasn't just hurt. I was done. That September night, I couldn't sleep. Their voices looped in my mind, Maris's sneer, Thane's careless laugh, Mom's cold calculation. I sat at my desk, the red folder open, its pages already heavy with years of bank transfers and broken promises. But now, I saw it differently, not as a record of my generosity, but as evidence of their betrayal. I opened my laptop and typed, family financial abuse, into the search bar. Story after story poured out, each one a mirror to my own. People used by those they loved, drained of money and hope, manipulated by guilt and loyalty. I wasn't alone, but that didn't ease the ache. It just gave it a name: exploitation. The next morning, I called in sick and booked an appointment with Dr. Nora Ellison, a therapist specializing in family trauma. Walking into her office felt like stepping onto a tightrope, terrifying, but necessary. I poured out my story, the $280,000 I'd given, the vacations I'd canceled, the dreams I'd buried to keep my family afloat. Dr. Ellison listened, her eyes steady, and said words that changed everything. "This isn't love, Evelina. It's abuse." I cried then, not just for the money, but for the years I'd spent trying to earn their love with every dollar. "I thought I was helping them," I said, my voice breaking. "I thought they needed me." She leaned forward, gentle but firm. "You deserve better. You deserve to be seen, not used." Her words were a lifeline, pulling me out of the fog. I contacted a friend, Juniper, who'd warned me years ago that my family was taking advantage. Over coffee, I played her the recording. Her face hardened. "Evie, they don't deserve you," she said. "You're not their bank." For the first time, I believed it. I started researching financial recovery, reaching out to a lawyer named Clara Voss. She reviewed my red folder, every receipt, every text promising repayment, and nodded. "You have a case," she said. These weren't gifts. They were coerced loans, obtained through lies. The truth was painful but clear. My family hadn't just taken my money, they'd taken my trust, my worth, my sense of self. I wasn't just fighting for dollars. I was fighting for me. That night, I made a decision. Christmas was 3 months away. They'd all be together, expecting another handout. But this time, I'd be ready, with the red folder and the truth. After that September night, when I overheard my family's cruel laughter and their plans to exploit my next bonus, I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore. The recording of their voices, Maris calling me an easy mark, Thane admitting he'd never repay me, Loretta plotting a Vermont vacation home, burned in my mind. I'd given them $280,000 over 7 years, every dollar a piece of my future, and they'd mocked me for it. I needed proof, not just feelings, to confront the truth. So, I hired a private investigator, someone discreet who could dig into what my family was hiding. The results were worse than I'd imagined. Loretta, my mother, hadn't just mismanaged money, she'd blown $50,000 at Mohegan Sun Casino, chasing slot machine jackpots while claiming credit card emergencies. Her social media showed weekend trips to Atlantic City, not the struggling teacher's life she sold me. Thane's beer subscription business, the one I'd funded with $20,000 from my 401k, was a sham. The PI found a BMW parked in his friend's garage, bought with my money, while he drove an old Honda to keep up his broke entrepreneur act. Maris was the worst blow. That $40,000 I'd sent for her wedding? Part of it paid for cosmetic surgery and a down payment on a secret cabin in Maine, a retreat she bragged about to friends but never mentioned to me. My emergency loans funded her Instagram perfect life, Cancun honeymoons, designer bags, spa weekends, while I wore the same coat for years. The PI's photos, bank records, and text messages filled my red folder, turning it into a weapon of truth. I met with Clara Voss, a lawyer recommended by a colleague. She spread my documents across her desk, spreadsheets of transfers, texts promising repayments that never came, the PI's evidence of their lies. "Evelina," she said, her voice steady, "this isn't just family drama. It's financial coercion, possibly fraud. These weren't gifts, they were loans obtained under false pretenses." Her words hit hard, giving a name to the betrayal I'd felt for years. I wasn't just a daughter trying to help, I was a victim of manipulation. The red folder wasn't just paper anymore, it was my shield, my proof, my way out. For the first time, I saw a path forward, one where I could reclaim my life. With the truth laid bare, I knew confrontation was inevitable. Christmas was 3 months away, the one time my family, Loretta, Vernon, Maris, and Thane, would all be together, expecting another handout. I decided that's when I'd face them, when their guard would be down, their greed on full display. The red folder became my lifeline, growing thicker with every piece of evidence: $280,000 in bank transfers, screenshots of their lies, the PI's photos of Loretta's casino trips, Thane's hidden BMW, Maris's secret cabin. I spent nights organizing it, my hands steady but my heart racing. This wasn't about revenge, it was about accountability, about showing them I wasn't their ATM anymore. I wrote letters to each of them, outlining what they owed: Loretta's $50,000 gambling losses, Thane's $20,000 business loan, Maris's $40,000 wedding and cabin funds. I included terms, repayment plans, a commitment to family therapy, or I'd pursue legal action. Clara, my lawyer, reviewed every word, nodding. "This is solid," she said. "You're giving them a chance to make things right, but you're also protecting yourself." To keep up appearances, I bought Christmas gifts, thoughtful ones to contrast their selfishness: a leather journal for Thane to write real plans, an emerald necklace for Maris to remind her of beauty without deceit, a spa package for Loretta and Vernon to face their issues together. Each gift was a message. I still saw them as family, but I wouldn't be their doormat. I practiced my speech in front of my bedroom mirror, my voice cracking at first. 7 years, $280,000. Every lie documented, I'd say, imagining their faces. "This ends now." The words grew stronger each time, my resolve hardening. I met my friend Juniper one last time before the holidays. Over coffee, I told her my plan. Her eyes lit up with pride. "You're doing the right thing, Evie," she said, squeezing my hand. "Be strong. You've got this." Her words echoed Dr. Ellison's from therapy: "You deserve to be seen." I clung to that, letting it drown out years of guilt. Christmas morning would be more than a family gathering, it would be a reckoning. I wasn't just preparing to confront them, I was preparing to reclaim myself. The red folder wasn't just evidence, it was my voice, ready to speak after years of silence. Christmas morning arrived, heavy with snow and heavier with the weight of what I was about to do. I drove to my family's house in Boston, the red folder on the passenger seat, its contents a silent promise to reclaim my life. For 7 years, I'd been their lifeline, $280,000 poured into their lies, their dreams, their betrayals. Today, that ended. Walking into Mom's house felt like stepping onto a stage, the air thick with forced holiday cheer. Loretta bustled in the kitchen, cinnamon rolls baking, her smile as polished as the new appliances I'd paid for. Maris, my sister, sipped coffee in a silk robe, her diamond earrings catching the light, another purchase I'd likely funded. Thane, my brother, sprawled on the couch, scrolling his phone, his easy grin hiding the BMW he'd bought with my money. Vernon, Mom's husband, sat quietly, as always, his presence barely registering. The Christmas tree glittered, over-decorated with ornaments that mocked my sacrifices. We gathered for breakfast, the table set with Mom's best china, but the warmth was a facade. Their small talk, Maris's new job, Thane's latest, big idea, Loretta's book club, felt rehearsed, a performance to keep me compliant. I played along, my hands steady despite the storm inside me. After breakfast, we moved to the living room for gifts. I'd spent weeks choosing theirs, each one a quiet message. For Thane, a leather journal to write real plans, not fantasies I'd fund. For Maris, an emerald necklace, its beauty a contrast to her deceit. For Loretta and Vernon, a spa package, a chance to face their issues together. I handed them out, my heart pounding, knowing what was coming. Their gifts to me were an afterthought, a stained coffee mug from Maris, an old scarf from Mom, nothing from Thane or Vernon. We're tight this year, Loretta said, her tone unapologetic. I nodded, swallowing the hurt. The gifts didn't matter, the red folder did. Maris broke the silence, her voice sharp, rehearsed. Evelina, we need to talk, she said, glancing at Mom for approval. We've had a family vote. You're out. You've been too controlling, always lording your money over us. The words landed like a slap, cold and deliberate. Loretta's eyes flicked away, Thane smirked, Vernon shifted uncomfortably. They thought they'd cornered me, that I'd crumble or write another check to prove my loyalty. They were wrong. I looked at Maris, then at each of them, my voice calm but unyielding. I have something to share too, I said, reaching for the red folder under the tree. Their smiles faltered, sensing something they couldn't control. For the first time in years, I held the power. I opened the red folder, its weight a testament to 7 years of betrayal. 7 years, I began, my voice steady despite the fire in my chest. $280,000. That's what I've given you, my savings, my dreams, my future. And every dollar came with a lie. Their faces froze, Maris's coffee cup mid-air, Loretta's hands clasped too tightly, Thane's smirk gone. Vernon's eyes widened, the only one showing surprise. I laid out a spreadsheet, meticulously prepared, detailing every transaction. Maris, $40,000 for your wedding at the Langham Hotel, including $10,000 for flowers. But you also used it for cosmetic surgery and a down payment on a cabin in Maine. Maris's jaw tightened, her eyes flashing with anger, but she said nothing. I turned to Thane. Your beer subscription business, Thane, $20,000 from my 401k. No business ever existed. You bought a BMW, kept it hidden in a friend's garage. His face paled, his usual charm useless. And Mom, I continued, looking at Loretta. $50,000 for credit card emergencies that funded your gambling trips to Mohegan Sun and Atlantic City. Another $18,000 for debt that built your new kitchen. Loretta's lips parted, but no words came. Vernon stared at her, his shock genuine. I pulled out photos from the private investigator, Loretta at slot machines, Thane's BMW, Maris's cabin. Text messages followed, their own words promising repayments they never intended to make. This folder holds every lie, I said, my voice rising with the weight of years. Every time you called me selfish, every time you guilt me, every time you took what wasn't yours. I played the recording from September, their voices filling the room. Maris, she's an easy mark. Thane, I'm never paying her back. Loretta, she's lonely, we're all she has. The silence that followed was deafening. Maris's face twisted, her voice low. You spied on us? I met her gaze, unflinching. No, Maris. I protected myself. For years, I believed your lies because I wanted to keep our family together. But you weren't family, you were users. Vernon spoke, his voice trembling. Karen, you were gambling? Loretta's eyes darted away, her facade crumbling. Thane shifted, muttering, this is overblown, Evie. But his voice lacked conviction. I laid out more evidence, bank statements, loan agreements they'd signed and ignored. You thought I'd never notice, I said. You thought I'd keep giving, keep sacrificing, keep believing I was the problem. But I see you now. I see every lie you told, every dollar you stole, every piece of me you broke. The room felt smaller, their defenses shattered. For the first time, they had no excuses, no manipulations, no way to twist the truth. The red folder had stripped them bare. I took a breath, the red folder still open, its truth heavy in the air. I'm not here to destroy you, I said, my voice softer but firm. I'm here to end this cycle. You have a choice. I pulled out 4 letters, one for each of them, Loretta, Vernon, Maris, Thane, and placed them on the coffee table. These outline what you owe me. Mom, $50,000 for gambling losses, plus $18,000 for the kitchen. Thane, $20,000 for the BMW you called a business. Maris, $40,000 for your wedding, surgery, and cabin. In total, $280,000, documented and legally binding. Maris scoffed, but her hands shook. Loretta stared at the floor, silent. You have 2 paths, I continued. Repay what you owe, starting with monthly plans I've outlined. Commit to family therapy to rebuild what's left of us. Or I'll take this folder to court. My lawyer, Clara Voss, says we have a case for financial coercion and fraud. Vernon's face crumpled, his voice barely a whisper. We didn't mean, but I cut him off, gently. Intentions don't erase actions, Vernon. You all benefited, even if you didn't plan it. I looked at each of them, my heart aching but resolute. You have until New Year's to decide. I want a family, not a lawsuit. But I'm done being your ATM. Maris lunged forward, her voice rising. You're tearing us apart, Evelina. I stood, calm, the red folder in my hands. No, Maris. You did that years ago. I'm just refusing to break anymore. I walked toward the door, their silence heavy behind me. Think about it, I said, pausing. This is your chance to make things right. I stepped outside, snow falling, the cold air sharp against my skin. For the first time in years, I felt light, not free, not yet, but unburdened. The red folder wasn't just evidence, it was my voice, my strength, my line in the sand. They'd underestimated me, but I'd shown them who I was. Now, it was their turn to choose. 6 months after that Christmas confrontation, my life transformed. I moved into a cozy condo in Cambridge, a space I made my own with plants and books, free from my family's shadow. Loretta, my mother, joined Gamblers Anonymous, her face softer in therapy sessions, though her apologies were still tinged with excuses. She sold assets to start repaying the $50,000 she'd gambled away. Thane, my brother, surprised me most. He got an IT job, began sending small payments for the $20,000 he owed, and showed up to therapy, his arrogance fading. Maris, my sister, was tougher. She paid part of the $40,000 for her wedding and cabin but resisted therapy, her resentment a wall between us. I couldn't force her to change, but I could choose my peace. I joined a hiking group, their laughter filling the void my family left. Coffee dates with my friend Juniper became my anchor, her support unwavering. I even started dating Lionel, an architect whose kind eyes saw me, not my wallet. I began volunteering at a financial literacy program, teaching others to spot the abuse I'd endured. My life wasn't perfect, but it was mine, built on choices I made for myself. The red folder, once heavy with my family's lies, now holds my growth, a journal of lessons, affirmations, and photos of my new life. I replaced their betrayal with hiking trips, late-night talks with friends, and quiet mornings in my condo, sunlight streaming through windows I paid for. I learned a truth that changed me: boundaries aren't selfish, they're survival. For years, I'd thought love meant giving everything, $280,000, my dreams, my worth. But real love doesn't demand sacrifice, it lifts you up. My family's mixed progress, Loretta's slow amends, Thane's effort, Maris's resistance, doesn't define me anymore. I've found a chosen family, people who value me for who I am, not what I can give. If you've ever felt trapped by those you love, know this: you can break free. Your worth isn't what you give, it's who you are. Share your story in the comments. Where are you watching from? Hit like if this moved you, subscribe for more stories of strength, and share to remind someone they're not alone. I'm Evelina Harper, and this Christmas, I didn't just confront my family, I reclaimed myself. The red folder was my truth, but my future is my freedom.